This conference will now be recorded.
Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. In fact, we don't have anyone from US, so say good morning. It's fine. So let's continue our discussion. Basically, in the last session, we have done with Nick bonding, the last topic, network and thing. Now today we will see one more important topic as far as security is concerned. But the problem is it is a little complicated stuff, but we'll try to make it as simple as possible. So let us start the session. So the topic is SE Linux. SE Linux actually stands for Security Enhancement to Linux. Normally, for the security purposes, you uses firewalls, antiviruses, etc. Now, on the top of firewall, on the top of antiviruses, we will add one more layer of security, and that is nothing but SE Linux. So it's just like you're having a jewelry showroom. So you have, you know, a security guard, you have an alarm. To enhance security, you may add CCTV cameras and something like that. So on the top of existing security, we will add more layer of security. That is nothing but SE Linux. Normally, we have two types of securities access control. One is discretionary access control and the other one is mandatory access control. Discretionary access control is nothing but when a hacker try to access your system. We control this whole thing with our regular security like file permissions, SUID, SGIDs, whatever we have learned. With that we will be protecting. So that is a normal layer of security. If a hacker gains access to your system somehow, then the doors for the whole system will be open. Anywhere they want, they can go, and security will be compromised. The whole. Normally, how people gain access, guys? Do you think they'll directly try to log in into your machine by breaking your username and password? Generally, that is not the case. I'll tell you one of the case that happened in one of the biggest pharma company like Dr. Reddy's lab back in 2020 in the COVID times. See, with a simple um, printer software and driver software, these Chinese mafia, they have hacked the whole Dr. Reddy's system and they were asking for a big ransom to relieve it. How it happened? Just because of a small printer driver. Using it, they enter into the system. So basically, from different applications, from different sources, people connect to your system. It's not that always direct login people will try to do. Sometimes I'll connect my machine with FTP. Sometimes I'll connect with SSH. Sometimes I'll connect with some other software. So using different software, people will try to log in. So here we require an extra layer of security who can control or who can monitor those type of activities, right? So here is the role of SE Linux like security. In this, what happens on the kernel level itself, these policies will be applied. And what it does for every application, it makes a boundary which it cannot cross. Now, if you are connecting with FTP, there is one area that you are allowed to work with. Other areas you cannot go. If you are working with HTTP, if you are working with some other applications or something, so whichever application you are using, you will only gain access to that area. You cannot cross that boundary, you cannot come inside and roam freely. So here also there is a chance that people might gain access somehow, but they cannot roam freely. Only in that area with a very limited powers they can do. It's like the thief has very, intelligently opened the door. And when he opens the door, he found that there are more 50 doors inside it, and he's locked there. Now, will he try to open all 50 doors, or he'll get bored and get away from there? Exactly like that, this security will happen. So that is where SE Linux will be working, and it is not going to allow applications to freely roam in the system. So whenever an outsider is connecting to our system, SE Linux will get activated, and different applications it is going to monitor, and it is going to very strictly control it. It won't allow these applications or any other thing to do whatever they want to do in the system. So in the modern layer of security, it becomes very important to maintain SE Linux. Normally, this is how SE Linux protection works. You have a subject and you have a object. Now, subject can be any process or any application through which you are trying to access the object. Object can be any file, folder, or any other process that might be running in the system. So when a subject tries to access the object, between them there will be an SE Linux policy server which will be monitoring it just like a firewall. So this activity, whether we have approved or not, it will check. If we have approved this activity, then it will gain access to the file. If not, simply they'll be seeing a denial messages and nothing else they can do. So not only outsiders guys, but inside also, whatever application you install, through that if you are trying to access anything, it may check and it may make sure that whether this activity is allowed or not. If it is allowed, you'll go forward. If not, here only you'll be rejected. Okay. Now, there is a configuration file for SE Linux, etc SE Linux config. There are so many things what you can do inside it. Basically, in this, you can set a permanent mode of SE Linux, right? Now, what is this mode? Basically, there are three modes of SE Linux: enforcing, permissive, and disable. So at any time, SE Linux can be in enforcing mode, it can be a permissive mode, or it can be disabled. So when it comes over here, you see, we will be, um, let me take a paintbrush and let me show you better. So we have three modes. One is enforcing, other one is permissive, and the last one is disabled. Now if you ask me to write it in a very simple way, that what enforcing means, what permissive and disabled mean, I'll tell you that enforcing is active mode, permissive is not completely active, not completely deactive. It can be called as debug or warning mode. Okay. Then comes disabled. Disabled, very simple, it is inactive mode. So I still want you to remember these terminologies: enforcing, permissive, and disable. Just for explanation, I have written these things. Active means right now it is completely active and it is in action, protecting the whole system. Somebody is sitting and watching the CCTV cameras every time, and security guards are frisking you and allowing you. Alarms are placed, total security is active, something like that. Disable means inactive. Total SE Linux security is down, right? Now, why there is a need of this middleman permissive? Let's understand that. See, the problem is whenever there is a problem with SE Linux and you want to fix it. So initially, the problem that we used to face in Red Hat 6 or before Red Hat 6 was when you go for enforcing to disable, you have to mandatorily reboot the machine. That means you cannot go from enforcing to disable while the system is up and running. You have to reboot it. And from inactive also, if you want to again activate it, Even in this particular case, you have to reboot the machine. So at any cost, going from enforcing to disable, disable to enforcing, you have to reboot the machine. That's it. There was no other choice. Now you think about it, guys. Production is going on, live environment is running, and if there is an issue, I have to fix that issue. I cannot reboot the machine to fix the issue with SE Linux. So we used to face this problem. To avoid it, there was one more mode that is introduced, which is permissive. Now, whenever there is a problem with SE Linux, we simply disable SE Linux by putting into permissive mode. So, permissive mode, what it does not have any protection for SE Linux. Whatever is going on is going on. It is not going to stop anybody. It is not going to disturb anybody. If the theft is happening, let it have. If somebody is breaking into the system, let them break. It is not going to protect anything. But the good thing it does is it generates the log. It keep the log activity that who has done what, and it also give warnings. So whenever somebody is trying to do something different, it will warn it. It says that do not do this. This is not a great activity. Something like that warnings it will give you. But no SE Linux protection. That means you can fix whatever issue that you find with SE Linux. And again, if you want to go back from permissive to enforcing, you can go live. There is no downtime required. You can simply do this activity online. So whenever there is an issue with SE Linux and you wanted to fix the issue, repair the issue, you can move to permissive. Sometimes even if there is not an issue, just to find out, is it SE Linux blocking it? Suppose an application people are complaining that we are not able to do this activity. So you can temporarily disable SE Linux by moving into permissive. Then you will ask, try it out. If they say yes, now we are able to do. So that means SE Linux is blocking it. Then we will take further action how to allow that activity within SE Linux. So to do all that debugging work, we need permissive mode, right? Now, if you totally don't want SE Linux to be there, then simply disable and throw it away. No need to go for any SE Linux concept. So these are the three modes what you have to remember. Another very important thing about SE Linux is it has booleans. What are these booleans? See, booleans are the variables or the small activities that you can control. Like user can change the directory, true or false. User can upload the data, true or false. Application can download this thing, true or false. So normally booleans are the answers that you have to give, yes or no, or true or false, right? Like that. Now, the major part of SE Linux is SE Linux policy. Just think like that. The policy is the driving engine that drives the whole SE Linux protection. So SE Linux policy is the most thing, and we are not going to touch this part at all. Nothing related to policy, because policy designing and policy manipulation, that is required to have a very huge knowledge of security. In fact, guys, Red Hat has one certification for this, RHCSS, Red Hat Certified Security Specialist. So in that you will be taught about what is these policies, how to make the policy. Just think like that, guys. We are not going to learn how to create a CCTV camera or any other thing. We are just bringing it and we are deploying it. So a policy will be there, we start using. And honestly speaking, guys, you don't have to learn that for our normal Linux administration, right? So in that, we have one of the very important concept that we are going to talk about is SE Linux context. So policies has the concept of context. Contexts are the permissions that are labeled to every file. Every directory has this SE Linux permission that is called context. So context will decide how this file will be accessed by people, whether SE Linux will be allowing people to access it, or whether SE Linux will be blocking. Apart from regular permission, how SE Linux will be allowing and denying permission to the file, that is declared in the context. Every file you have to give it, like which user, what role, what they can do, all that will be defined in the context that we will see. Now let's log in into our machine and let's see how we can work with SE Linux. So normally, if you wanted to see if SE Linux is enabled or not, it is working or not, you have a command get enforce. Normally get for viewing, set for changing. That rule is applied here. So when I say get enforce, it tells you that yes, SE Linux is enforcing. That means SE Linux is available and people are scanned by SE Linux. Applications are scanned, activities are scanned, in a better word. Okay. Now, to see a little more detail about it, you can say SE status. So when I say SE status, it is going to tell you more detail about SE Linux, like whether SE Linux is enabled or not. If SE Linux is enabled, where is the SE Linux data? See, SE Linux uses one directory as its mount point, where it stores all its data. So if you look into this location, sysfs SELinux, you see there will be so many information that will be available here. Your booleans will be here, your context will be here, and your policies will be here. All those things will be kept in this location. So if SE Linux is available, you see the data here. If SE Linux is disabled, there will be no such directory. There will be no SE Linux directory in sysfs. Okay. Now, policy name, ignore whatever it is getting. Don't worry about anything talking to policy. Now, two important things which I want you to understand here is current mode of SE Linux is enforcing, and the mode from config file is also enforcing. Now, what do you understand with current mode and mode from config file? I remember in the other class, I asked the same question and I got a very funny reply. I mean, in fact, a very smart reply that current mode is the current mode and the config mode is the mode from config file. See what a best use of English, isn't it? Current mode is current mode and mode from config file is the config file mode. Actually, guys, current mode is what we are having SE Linux right now. Mode from config file, you can call it as a permanent mode. Normally, guys, you take a partition, you format and mount the partition. So if you normally mount a partition, it's a temporary mount. Right now it will be mounted. As soon as you reboot, the mount point will be gone, right? How do you make it permanent? When you add the entry in fs tab. So what is an fs tab, guys? It is also a config file. So whenever system is booting, always the booting process check in config file which mode it has to make. So mode from config file is a permissive mode. Suppose right now I change it to permissive, right? So if I change it to permissive, guys, right now it will be permissive, but after reboot it will come back to enforcing. Why? Because the config file is telling enforcing. So every time system boot, the mode mentioned in config file will be applied. So current mode is the mode what you are using right now, which can be changed to any other thing, but it is not a permanent mode until unless you update into configuration file. Are you able to understand this difference between these two, guys, all of you? Am I clear with this or not? Okay, Shahid says yes, so as Gangadhar and Ajay. How about others? Somnath and Suresh, are you able to follow the points? Let me know, guys, if okay, great. So suppose the current mode what you are having is enforcing. Maybe temporarily there was an issue, so I want to change it to permissive. So how do I change it temporarily? The command is set enforce. See, I clearly explained you that while system is online, you can go from enforcing to permissive, and you can come back to permissive to enforcing. Without rebooting, it is impossible to go to disabled. So when I say set enforce, clearly you see it says set enforce. You can only go from enforcing to permissive, permissive to enforcing. If you don't want to type full word, there is a shortcut, guys. What is the shortcut? Enforcing can be denoted with 1 and permissive can be denoted by 0. So 1 and 0, these things you can use. Let me show you how do I change the mode. See, you can say set enforce. Either you type full word. Guys, typing the full word requires correct spelling. Now if I say get enforce, do you see it is permissive? Now you understand. If I say SE status, it says currently SE Linux is permissive, but the config file is still enforcing. That means right now it is permissive. If system happens to be reboot, it is going to come back to enforcing again. Right now permissive, but after reboot it will come back to enforcing. Now, if I want to bring it back to enforce again, set enforce, enforcing. Now, if you go back and check it out, get enforce, it is enforcing. SE status, right now, again it is back to enforcing. Now, as I told you, instead of writing the full spelling, everybody use shortcut set enforce 0. This will make it permissive. Set enforce 1, it is going to make it enforcing. This is easier. Who will type the full word, guys? Simply 0 and 1. So while system is up and running, you can only play between enforcing to permissive and permissive to enforcing. Disable is not possible without rebooting. Okay, so this is the way we have to change it. Now how do I make it permanent? I'll explain you in some time. Let's move to the other topic and then we'll come back to how to make it a permanent mode later. So temporarily you can use set enforce and change it. Right now it is what? Enforcing, protecting the system. Now let's move ahead and let us see how to play with the context. So many files are available here. So many files. Now out of which there is a file called Suresh. Now how do I check the details of Suresh file? ls-l and Suresh. This will display regular permission. Now in this, if you add capital Z or capital Z, it is going to add SE Linux permission after regular permission. It will tell you over here. See, between all your regular information, it is adding some unconfined object. So this is an object and it is protected by SE Linux and only admin has the access. It says this data belongs to administrator's home directory, root's home directory. So no application it will give access because it is admin. So if you are logged in as root, you are running the application as root, then only you will have access. Suppose I logged in as some other user and I'm trying to use an application and trying to access it, it will simply block. It says no. This is not a general property that anybody can come. It is root's property. Now same way I have a directory over here called Shahid or maybe main. Do I have anything in this directory? Yeah, wonderful. So you see, I have a directory here, Shahid directory. So if you say ls-ldz and the directory name, it says that this directory is also an administrator's home property. Other people will not be accessed. All the files inside it, all the files also have admin access. So only admins can access it. Non-admins and the software that are not belong to administrator, it will not give access to it. Now, suppose I want to change this context, just like a normal permission you change, I want to change the context to something else. Now, this is very, very unfortunate, guys, that there is no man pages that explain you about how many contexts are there. For example, if you search for context, it only explain that there is something like context. That's it. You have so many other man pages, but nobody explain you about what context to be used in which situation. I don't know that why they have done as such. So many other commands it gives us. But all these commands, you see, some commands are not available and there are no man pages available properly to understand it also. See? So problem is it says go to some website and try to learn that. So in this case, I would just let you know that there is one concept now we are working a lot, chat GPT, right? So you can just ask, right, list all SELINUX context. So maybe chat GPT can help us a little bit, right? So over here it may try to explain you what is user. At least I'll try to get some information. So what I wanted to um, ask you is to read this particular thing. So maybe over here you may get some, see over here it is telling you that admin home, what it is, type of administrative home directory, other people will not. User home, regular user home directory. Var log, it's a log file. etc, these are config file. httpd can be accessed by http. sshd can be accessed by ssh. Named can be accessed by DNS. So at least over here, something I got information, guys, that what are these particular things. Still, I'm not able to list all the context, even though we took help from ChatGPT also, but still there is no listing like in this scenario, this context, in this scenario, this context, no. Then how do we use it? See, actually, in your work scenarios, whenever you are implementing something, work scenarios uses only best practices, guys, proven practices. And every organization has SME, subject matter expert. So this subject matter expert have certain knowledge, and according to his knowledge, he prepares some documents and give us. So whenever you are doing that thing, we have to strictly follow documentation. There are many big companies who doesn't do anything outside of the documented thing. They'll not allow you to take a ride of production environment. See, understand that a crucial server is running, and if you do experiments on the top of it, if you play openly with that, there is a huge risk involved. So documented stuff will be there. You have to go with documentation. So when you are installing Oracle database, there will be some context related to it. Whenever you are configuring Tomcat or Apache, according to it, some context document will be given. So you have to read the document and apply. So doesn't worry that what context will do what. Just learn that how you can apply the context. That's it. Which is the context, how you can apply the context, that is important. Whatever context might be given to you, you just take that context and you apply the context. That's it, right? So how do I change the context? Any context it might be. So let me show you few of the context that I know. Suppose I have this file with the name Suresh. Now in this, it is admin home directory. Maybe I want it to be available by everyone. I don't want to make it user home. I want to make it, for example, available for everyone. So how do I change the context? Guys, to change the context, we have the command chcon, change context. So when I run chcon hyphen t, t means type. Now what you want to change? See, I wanted to make it public underscore content underscore t. See, you cannot just type anything Shahid underscore Suresh underscore something. There is a proper context only which are accepted. So everything will be having end with a t. Okay, T is nothing but the targeted policies, whatever it is using. Now, on which file? The file name is Suresh. Now, if you go back and check it out, you see it is changed. Now, last time the application was not able to access the file. When you change the context and ask them, try it again, they'll say yes. Now we are able to access it. The application got access to your file. So sometimes this context will be blocking access towards the file or directory. So you need to change it. Same way, maybe I want to change the context of the directory also. Like I have Shahid directory, and this directory has three files. All of them are having admin home, admin home, admin home. Now in a single shot, I wanted to change the context of the directory and the content together. So how do I change it? See, I'll say chcon. If I only say change the type, then what will happen? Just the directory will get the change. Content are not going to get anything. So in this case, I'm going to use capital R. R means recursive. That means apply the change on the directory and every file present inside it. All I want to make the changes. Okay. All right. So I'll say recursively change the type of the directory to anything. Suppose again I want to make it public underscore content underscore t. For which directory? Shahid. Now you see it is going to apply the context not only on the directory, but it is also going to apply the context on the content also. So the main directory and the content is going to work, right? So this is the way how it is going to work out. This is the way it is going to be. Okay, yes, Ajay, go ahead.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so this is the way how you can change the context of the directory and all the content inside it. Now, the question is this change temporary or permanent? Like you have changed the context of Suresh file and you have changed the context of Shahid directory and all the content. See, almost it is permanent only. Almost it is permanent, but in few cases there is a chance that it may get reversed back to its original. In what case? The thing is, whenever you are reloading the SE Linux or relabeling SE Linux, normally guys what happens in few cases, whenever you have SE Linux enforcing, and there is a concept of disable. Now the thing is, whenever you are going from enforcing to disable, there will be no issues, it will be disabled. Whenever you are coming back from disabled to enforcing, there is a chance that SE Linux may relabel the total policies. Okay, the total policies it is going to relabel. So whatever change you have done, there is a chance it may get back to reverse. Why? Because there is something called default context. So whenever policy relabel happen, automatically SE Linux policies may be changed. So till relabel happen, 100 times you reboot, it is not going to affect. Whenever from enforcing to disable you go, disable back to enforcing you come, there is a chance of relabel and it is going to affect it. Chalo, let's take one question from Ajay. The question is this standard to keep all files with these conditions or only special cases? Normally special cases only, not all files. Whichever file that you want to provide access to some application. Suppose you have configured web server. Now through web, through Apache, you want a particular file to be accessed. So in this case, you will do. Definitely, it is our role only. As an administrator, people will ask us to do it, and we have to do it. Sometimes what happens, you configure a web server, everything will be fine. Then there will be a backend application installed. Now the app team will tell you that, see, I'm trying to do this activity and it is not working. So it is our role to resolve that issue. How do you know what is the issue? You have to check SELINUX. Most easiest thing is put it into permissive mode and ask them, are you able to access it? They say yes. Again enforce it and ask them, are you able to access it? No. That means SELINUX is disturbing. So in that case, you have to check what is the SELINUX context, change the context and see will it affect? Yes. So it will be like that. Mostly in the documentation, it will be premeditated. They will be already written over there that you have to change the context. If you do it at first hand only, there will be no problem. In a rare situation, unknown situation, you can do troubleshooting like that. Okay, now the thing is, suppose I want to restore it back. I don't want to relabel the whole policy. Suppose we have changed the context of Suresh file earlier. Now I want to reverse it back to original. Maybe 15-20 days back I did it. Now I don't remember what was the original or default context. Is there a way I can revert it back to original? Easily, guys, very easily. There is a command called restore con. Restore con is the command using which you can restore back the context to its default value, right? So whenever SELinux policy relabel happen, it brings it back to default. So instead of rebooting and doing it, one particular file I want to restore. So I'll say restore con hyphen v. V is optional, it is not mandatory. If you want, you go for it, else you don't. V is for verbose view. Show me what is getting changed. So I'll say restore con hyphen v. Restore the context of Suresh file. Now over here you see last time it was public content. It is automatically relabeled to admin home. It knows that what is the default, so automatically it will bring it back to admin home. Maybe I tried several times on this Shahid directory. So many context I have changed. Now I want to reset it back. Just like guys in our devices, especially routers and something, there is a reset button to reset the settings. So when you reset, it will restore. So here that is restore con. And when you are dealing with directory, please do not forget recursive. If you don't use recursive, then what happens? Only directory will get changed. The files will remain the same. So I wanted to restore the context for the directory. If you want to view the output, use V. If not, ignore it. On which directory? Shahid directory. Now if you go back and check it out, ls-ldz, it is changed to admin home, and all the files inside it, they are also restored to admin home. So this is the way, guys, that how you can change the context of the directory, and you can change the context of the content, whatever files that are present inside it, right? Now another question that you can ask me here is, can I take a file and make any context as a default context? Yes, it is 100% possible that you can choose a file and you can make the context as a default context, so that whenever restoration happen, whenever relabel happen, it should come back to its original value. Now what I'll do, I'll create one file. See, do this experiment in slash. In your root directory, it will not allow you to play with security. So some other directory you have to choose. Best directory I'll take is slash mother directory. In this, I'll create one file called se file or any name. Now you check what is the context of se file. It is something called etc runtime. Something context is there. You can check in chat GPT. It'll explain you what it is. Now I wanted to make one context as a default context to it. How could I choose any context and make it as a default? There is a command se manage, and we'll say file context. See, again, all these things are mentioned in our lab manual. So over here the context is se manage file context, and I'll say hyphen a, add a context with a type. What type? See, you can use public content, you can use user underscore home, or maybe suppose there is an application called Samba. Normally guys, there is an application called Samba that connects Windows and Linux. So people from Windows can exchange data with Linux fellow using Samba. Maybe this file I want to share with Samba. So I'll say this file context should be samba underscore share underscore t. So I'm telling SE Linux that see, this file belong to Samba application. If Samba application is trying to access it, don't block. Allow people from Samba to access it. That's what I'm telling. For which file? SE file. Now you see it will take a little time to update. Now once it is updated, you can go to this file guys. etc SELinux targeted context files, file context dot local. Very deep location it is. Now if you read this file, in this file all user default context will be stored. So whenever you read file, it clearly tells this file is auto generated. Do not directly edit. Now it kept the story that whenever SE Linux relabel the policy, or whenever you manually relabel, it will come back to Samba share. Let's see, will it work or not? So what is the context of SE file right now? It is something etc runtime. If I run restore con on SE file, observe what it will come back to. It is going to come back to Samba share. Now you don't have to worry guys. Now also it is Samba share, and if SE Linux policy relabel happens also, it will come back to Samba share. Now this is a permanent change. Why it is permanent? Because you made default. Even though if SE Linux relabel happens also, it will make sure that relabel will come back to Samba share only. Okay, right. Now suppose I have one directory. Let me make a directory sedir. Not only I'll create directory, but let me add some files into it. File 1, 2, 3. So scenario is you have a directory slash sedir. Inside it, there are 3 files. Now what I want to do, I want to make sure that, did I not given slash over here? Yes, acha. This is the mistake I have done. Right. So we have a directory. Inside it, there are 3 files. What I want is, it is having some context like default, 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 something it is. Now suppose I want to make one context as a default context, which should be always applied, not only on the directory, but all the contents inside it. So how do I get that guys? See, in this case, again we go with a command se manage file context, se manage file context, right? Add a default type. This time maybe I'll go for httpd sys content. We saw this, right? httpd sys content means through http allow, maybe guys I have a directory in which I have kept all my web pages, so I want http application to get power to access this content. So I'm telling that allow this directory to be accessed by http application, don't block http from accessing it. Now which directory? Normally the directory. Now see, if you give like this, if the directory is an empty directory, no problem, it will get applied. But in our case, we already have a directory and some content is there. Not only the content available, guys, who knows, tomorrow I will add more data to that directory, right? Inside directory, I may add one more directory. So what I wanted to do here is I want to make a setup that not only now, but in future also, whatever directory that will be created inside it should get the same content. To do that, there is a complicated method, little bit, but it is the main directory name. Then you have to use a bracket. Inside it, you have to mention all the files that are available right now and the files that will be created in future. So a little bit complex structure is there that we have to follow. So SE directory, inside it, whatever files are present and all the files that will be created in future. Question mark mean future. Dot might be hidden file, star or open file. Hidden file, open file, future files, or anything. The content basically inside it should get the same context. This is the correct way of applying the context on the directory. It makes sure not only the directory but all the contents now and in future should get the same context. Now again you see it is taking the time. Why is it taking the time? Because it is updating this particular file. You see it says clearly that SE directory and all its content will be relabeled to this fellow. Let us try it out. What is the context? ls-ldz. You are having SETIR and all the contents inside it. There are three files. Now if I restore it, restore con recursively. Why? Because it is a directory. So I have restored the context on the directory as httpd sys content and all the files inside it httpd sys content. So in a single attempt, everything is changed and it is now guaranteed that if SE Linux total policy relabel happens also, they'll come back to the default what you have set. So are you able to connect with me, guys, all of you, what we have done? Okay, right. Shahid, Suresh, Somnath. Right. Anyway, so everyone is with me. Thank you very much for responding. Now, let's come back and move ahead to another super easy, simple concept that is called Booleans. Now, what are the Booleans? See, sometimes you may not be dealing with files or directories. Maybe there is a process like FTP, HTTP, Samba, DNS, or MySQL database, or any other thing. They wanted to do one activity and that is blocked. For example, suppose databases will be connected to an application. Maybe you are having MySQL database. Now it is going to connect with Tomcat server or Apache server. So MySQL is configured properly, Tomcat is configured properly, but whenever MySQL is trying to connect to Tomcat, it is getting rejected. Application theme says that everything is fine with us. I don't know why it is not happening. Again, what is the troubleshooting tip, guys? Put SE Linux in permissive mode and ask them to do the same task. If they says now it is working, then you have to make changes in SELinux. So if a process is not able to do any activity, then we'll check for booleans. How to check the booleans? Get se bool hyphen a. So when I hit enter, guys, it is going to show you all the booleans that are available. So many booleans are there. These are all process related or application related. Maybe you'll say only show me FTP related booleans. So it will show you only FTP activities. FTP anonymous write is off. This action cannot be done by FTP. FTP connect database, see, off. So this is the reason maybe you are not able to do the activity. Why? SE Linux is stopping you. FTP to get full access, off. You have done everything correctly in configuration, but this fellow is blocking you. Or maybe you wanted to go for Samba based application, or maybe you wanted to see HTTP web server based applications, or maybe you want to see MySQL database related thing. So it says MySQL connect any, no. MySQL to be connect through HTTP, no. So application is ready. It's like, you have asked people to come. There is a festival, there is a treat from my side, right? So people are coming to your office, but the security guard standing outside, we have not informed. So what it does, it will block them. It says, no, you are not allowed to go inside, right? So here you have to update. So whenever an application is not able to do any activity, you have to go for boolean. Whenever people are not able to access a particular file or directory, you have to change the context. So what should I do? Change it. How do I change it? I'll go for set se bool and the boolean name MySQL connect any. What is the answer you can give? See, there are two possible answers, on or off, or true or false. Any one you can follow. So suppose I want to give a simple on. Now you go back and check it out. It is on. Now you ask the application team to do that. They'll say yes. Now I'm able to connect to any application. But the change what you have done is temporary. How do I know it is temporary or permanent? No, it's not the service. No, 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 no. Here also we have a service. Here SE Linux is locking every door and window. So one window, one door you are opening. Service is totally running. That is the reason you are able to access the application. While accessing the application, some features are disabled that you are enabling, right? Fine. Now, if you see SE manage boolean list and grep for MySQL. So you see it will display MySQL connect any. This is current status, guys, and this is permanent status. What is the permanent status? Off. That means now it is on. If you reboot the machine, it will go back to off. Suppose some boolean is uh, on, you made it off. After reboot again, it will come back to on. So the command what we run is correct, but the problem is the change is temporary. How to make it permanent? At first time only you have to use capital P. P means persistent or permanent. When you change the boolean with P, both states will change. Current state also, permanent state also. See, it is taking a little bit of time. Now you come back and check it out with SE manage boolean. You see that both values are on. So anytime you are changing the boolean, please do not forget hyphen P. Why? If you don't use hyphen P, now it might change. After reboot, it will come back to previous state only. So change boolean, whatever it might be. Again, guys, you don't have to remember all the booleans. This is also mentioned in our documentation. See, whenever we follow our office documents over there, they will clearly mention that when you are implementing HTTP, Samba, these context has to be changed, these boolean has to be changed. So we are just puppets. Whatever they are mentioning, you should know, like we are mechanic bay. They are given a parts, we know where to fix it. That's it. So read the document, whatever it is asking, change the boolean accordingly, right? So I hope this is also clear, guys. Booleans, everyone. Now we'll move to the last part. Please quickly respond to me, all of you. Excellent. Now, the next thing what we are going to do is we are going to change the mode. The last thing. See, we learned how to change the mode. Get enforce will tell you enforcing or permissive, and SE status will tell you current state and permanent state. So suppose I made it permissive. How do I make it permissive? Set enforce 0. Shortcut. Now you see current state is permissive, but permanent state is still Somnath. We just learn it. You have to go with set se bool hyphen p boolean name on or off. If you want to make it off, type off. If you want to make it on. Or if you want to enable true, if you want to disable false. Two choices you are having. If you say false or off, it will be off. If you say on or true, it will be on. Clear? Right. So as you see over here, right now it is permissive. But the config mode is telling enforcing. That means now it is permissive. After reboot, it will come back to enforcing. Maybe guys, I want to make this also permissive. Can I use hyphen p with set enforce and do that? Right? Try it out and see. It says no, there is no such option. You cannot use hyphen p to update the file. In this case, manually you have to update the config file. How? By going into etc SELINUX config. Now this file you have to remember. Simple location in etc SELINUX in SELINUX config file. In this, if you read the file, there is an option SELINUX permanent mode is enforcing. So just come to this line, go to insert mode, remove enforcing and type permissive. Now please do not do spelling mistake. If you are like me who do spelling mistakes, I recommend here it is written enforcing, permissive, disable. Just copy and paste. One more thing, 0 and 1 will not work here. If you type 0 or 1, it will reject that request. Save and quit. Now you go and check SE status. Right now also permissive. After reboot also it is permissive. So both mode has been revert back to permissive. If you reboot also it will come back to permissive. Honestly speaking, we never make permissive as a permanent mode. Either enforcing will be permanent mode or disable. Permissive is a middleman. Whenever there is an issue, put it into permissive, test the problem, again revert it back. Now assume I want to disable it permanently. So you can go back again to the file SELinux config, and here it is written permissive. In place of permissive you type disable. Now save and quit. Now what you have to do? See, if you run SE status, it tells now it is permissive. But if I reboot the machine, it will disable. So what should I do now? Reboot. Now guys, if this is a live environment, could you simply go and run reboot? No, that will be devastating and you will face problem. Very devastating it would be. So in this case, what you have to do, you have to take approvals. As you know, you have to take approval. The application teams will shut down the application. If there are databases will be shut down. Then maybe Saturday night, Sunday night, when they give a green signal, then only you can reboot. Otherwise, don't do that. It will be very, very problematic. So when I reboot the machine, you see how simply it get rebooted. There will be no issue at all. Very swiftly, the system will be rebooting. To see what's going on during boot, you can also press escape. This may show you what are the steps going on at the boot time. So you see it is going fine, 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 no problem. System is booting very normally and the system is rebooted. Now I will reconnect. You log in and you check. I'll say get enforce, disable, SE status, disable, try to change, set enforce, make it enforcing, not possible, make it permissive, not possible, check in sys fs se linux, nothing, no data is mounted here, everything is removed. Now if I want to get back again enforcing, so we'll go to etc se linux config one more time and please come back to enforcing. Many people do this mistake and they suffer later on. When se linux is disabled, please come back to enforcing. This will enable it completely. From here you can play with permissive and enforcing anytime you want, but don't bring it into permissive. Permissive will not boot or make it completely active. So whenever it is disabled, 100% you should come back to enforcing. Now make the change, again take a downtime and reboot the machine. This time you see a different behavior. Guys, I call it as law of nature. See, to grow anything, to make anything, it takes time. Suppose there is a tree, maybe a banyan tree is there, neem tree is there. How many years it will take to make a full-fledged tree? So much time. But when you try to destroy it, it is a matter of few hours, guys, even few minutes nowadays. Very easily we can cut down the tree. Same way, when I ask SE Linux to remove it, it did it very fast, guys. But now when I'm telling apply it again, it says targeted policy relabel is required. Relabeling will take very long time depending of file system and the speed of the hard drive. So basically it is telling that I am relabeling the thing. This is going to take time. Please have some patience. Right? So nothing else we can do. You have to wait. Now let's discuss the conditions meanwhile in which we don't go for SE Linux. See, as per the security, it looks very beautiful and it is very useful also. Many cases. But sometimes, guys, too much security. Every step will also bind people to work. It happens, guys. We have seen in our lives also. You see, if you do too much strictness to the children, what happens? Will they become very obedient? No. Generally, those people are rebellious, right? So same thing will happen. Suppose there are applications who wanted to work in a free environment, and if you jailed with SE Linux, the problem with SE Linux is what? When you open the main door of the house, you see every room is separately locked. So each room you have to go. When you open the door, every cupboard is locked. So everything you have to open. So in this, the application feels suffocation, guys. They'll not be able to work freely, especially when you are deploying clusters like Hadoop cluster, or you have Veritas cluster, or you are having Red Hat clusters. Red Hat clusters are okay, but other clusters, or maybe you are deploying databases. Oracle actually hates SE Linux. Whenever you are deploying Oracle database, clearly it is mentioned disable SE Linux. We can't work with that. So in few cases, you have to get rid of SE Linux. So in that case, disable and keep it. But in most of the cases, we strongly recommend working with SE Linux not to have some security issues. Now you see when SE Linux policy relabel happened, automatically reboot happened this time. Now the system booted normally. After reboot, just re-login into the machine. And now you try to say get enforce, it is enforcing. You say SE status, it is enabled. So this is the way, guys, how SE Linux work. As far as security, it is very important, and do not worry. In the coming classes, again, we have to use them. So you need to practice it, and in the coming classes, you'll see we'll be repeating it also, right? So this is it in this today's session, guys, regarding to SE Linux. I hope everybody is able to understand the total concept, and we'll get back again for more. Right, guys, right. Wonderful. If everyone is able to understand it, then well and good. We'll stop the session here and we'll meet back again in the next session. And take care of yourself. We'll meet again, guys. Bye.